programs in the state. Given that, what role do you see the state taking in economic development programs in the future? Ms. Lupardo.
Let me just ask you to repeat that question. What role do you expect us to play in the future?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think is the appropriate role, given that clearly in the Buffalo Billions and in SUNY Polytechnic there was some, evidently, well, indictments, not convictions yet, but indictments alleging some pretty serious corruption in these economic development programs.
You know, one of the problems that developed, and we saw it coming, was when the comptroller was taken out of the mix. The state comptroller used to have much broader powers and oversight over the way these contracts were let out. And with him coming out of the mix, especially regarding all of SUNY-involved projects, these separate corporations and entities, nonprofit entities like Fort Schuyler, were developed to handle these projects. The theory there was that it would happen more quickly. There's got to be some sort of balance in between oversight that is too lengthy and a process that lends itself to this type of corruption, bid rigging. We want projects to come out well, but we don't want them to be compromised in the process. So we're going to be going back and looking at the way this is done. It is definitely discouraging between the Empire Zone and each potential scheme after the next, which is why when they did the regional councils, the governor proposed that, I was skeptical. I know that our region has benefited, and I must tell you that we were under a lot of pressure to be another one of these large-scale projects, like with the Nano School in Albany and throughout the rest of the Thruway corridor. I think we were smart. Projects that we're doing, again, are practical and doable, and I think we'll have a good return on investment, but there has to be a lot more oversight over what's going on, and you know, whether the governor likes it or not, we're coming to do that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Nixon?
I find that to be a very interesting answer. And so, do you know how the comptroller got out of the picture?
I do.
Well, I was talking to them. It was rhetorical. It's what Governor Cuomo wanted. And the legislature voted to just give him billions of dollars to do these projects with no oversight. And they don't even track return on investment. Any business owners here? Any investors here? No return on investment tracking. That's a recipe for disaster, and here we have it. Okay? Now, next question. What is New York doing for existing businesses? For people who have a proven product or a proven service, like some of you in here, that people actually want? Why is the money and the tax breaks for years and years going to a college kid with a dream? Something like that, who would have been laughed out of a commercial lending meeting in a bank because they would know, okay, you don't have your ducks in a row, you don't have a business plan, you don't know what you're doing. That's not what's happening, okay? That's not what's happening in New York. Instead, it's always some scheme with big numbers that is designed to create big numbers of jobs, and it doesn't happen. And then the next scheme, and then it doesn't happen. You may have seen in the Press and Sun, I wrote way back in December about the URI because I was against it. The first thing I said was take the money. The state's going to hand you money, take it. I get it, okay? I'm a realist, I get it. Just don't expect those jobs to be created. Has anyone seen any of these jobs created yet? Not promises of jobs coming, but actual jobs created. Has anyone seen any? Okay, I think you know where I stand.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nixon. Would you mind sharing your microphone with Mr. Akshar? Thank you.
So
Hello.
sorry, folks. So the question was, what role does government play in all of this? This question for me is very simple. It is not government's responsibility to create jobs. It's government's responsibility to get the hell out of the way of established business. Period. What are we doing? We keep going down the same road with gimmicks and tax abatements. Doesn't work. Allow me to say this. I am not opposed to the URI, the CFA, the REDC. I'm not opposed to the process and or the participants. I think the folks in the REDC worked very hard to come up with a really attractive plan that would help our area. I was very pleased to hear the governor finally acknowledge the fact that the southern tier could use some help, right? Because we saw government spend a lot of time in Buffalo and Rochester, Utica and Syracuse and Albany and downstate. But it seemed to me that everybody was afraid to make a left in Syracuse and come south. But folks, in my humble opinion, I didn't speak about this during the opening statements, it's not government's responsibility to do this. It's government's responsibility to get out of your way so you can thrive and prosper. Who knows better than you guys? We overregulate and we overtax in this state. So here's my position. I'm going back to taking a bottom-up approach. We formed a Small Business Advisory Council. There are 14 members who sit on it. And I may sound repetitive, but I truly believe in this approach. And this council is identifying issues that will make it easier to do business. Now, we completely understand that there are major conference-wide issues that we need to address. We need to address the cost of workers' comp. The unemployment system is broken and it's failing. We need to lower the cost of disability insurance, prevailing wage. The list goes on. But those are issues that is going to take a collective effort by the Senate, the Assembly, and the governor to come and understand how we fix those things. Regulatory reform. Again, we over-regulate in this state. So this council is identifying key areas of regulation that we should be repealing or changing to make it easier. We talked about...
Mr. Akshar, you're running out of time.
Am I out of time? Let me just finish it real quick, please. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sharon. Regulatory reform and legislation. I have a friend, a supporter, who says, don't pass any new laws. Repeal existing laws and get out of my way so I can be successful. That's my position.
All right. Ms. Ball.
Arthur Ashe, the tennis player, once said, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. I believe that when it comes to economic development, the people who know best are the people who are engaged in the economy of the local area. I think that some of these tax breaks that we see going to large organizations should be coming to some of the existing businesses that we have here. But these businesses need to be vetted. They need to be qualified. We need to know that they have a commitment to the community and they're not just going to up and leave when their tax break is over or their tax abatement is over. We need to look at the businesses and support the businesses. And I want to also say the businesses and the nonprofit businesses, because those are businesses too. And they help hold up this community in monumental ways that are rarely acknowledged. We need to support small businesses who exist here, who have a commitment to the community. We know they're not going anywhere. Those tax breaks and those tax abatements and what other benefits that are being handed to people coming in should be handed to the people who are already here, the people who are already doing business here. I don't believe that any business, any entity, should be told that they're not going to be regulated, that they're not going to get some oversight. I'm sorry. I just don't think that's practical. Because when we think about it, every entity needs to have some rules. We expect it of others. I think we should expect it of ourselves. However, those rules should be logical, they should be sensible, and they should be designed to help you do what you do and protect the public interest, because the business interest must be balanced with the public interest. I think that nonprofits should be in on the discussion of loans and grant programs, because if you look around, the revitalization of the downtown in Binghamton, of downtown in Owego, of downtown in Hancock started and is ongoing because of the arts and culture. These are things for investment. I think that these are places for investment, for promoting the area as art and culture destination, that we can work together and we can all benefit from that.
All right, thank you very much. What can the state do to help businesses to fill the already open positions in our community that our businesses seem to be having difficulty finding qualified workers for? Mr. Akshar.
I think workforce development is critically important, but you have to bring those stakeholders to the table and have those meaningful conversations, to have a true understanding of what the need is. And that has to happen by having those conversations. I'm pleased that the Senate and the Assembly appropriate money for organizations like the Chamber on a yearly basis. We heard the county executive candidates talk a little bit about on-the-job training. And we appropriate money so the Chamber has those funds available to them so they can play an instrumental role in ensuring that people are being hooked up with the appropriate people who have a certain skill set. So, for me, it's about continuing to invest in workforce development initiatives, continuing to ensure OJT funds are available to businesses locally.
All right, Ms. Ball.
Now, I guess the thing that I would want to say about this is that I'm so struck by all the different acronyms, all the different organizations and groups and businesses that are involved and engaged in training, in job creation, in economic development. And I guess the thing that I would say is, are they all talking to each other? I heard an interview not too long ago, an employer who was talking about the fact that they had jobs available. They were, I believe they were truck driving. They were truck driving jobs. They were, big rig driver jobs. And that they couldn't find anybody qualified locally to take these jobs. What struck me about that was this is an interview I'm hearing on the radio, and I'm thinking, so why isn't this person talking to SUNY Broome, talking to Binghamton University, talking to the training programs that already exist? I believe that communication and setting up ways for the job creators to talk to the training, the educational entities in the community, and doing that formally, not people talking to their various groups or their friends and informally, but setting up a formal mechanism where people can communicate, find out what the jobs are and what training track people need to be on to get those jobs locally.
All right, thank you. We'll move over to the Assembly candidates. Ms. Lupardo. Press the button, and then the green light will come on. There you go.
Well, obviously, we need a lot more collaboration, a lot more communication between the business owners and our institutions of higher education, but also with our community members who are dealing with people with challenging economic circumstances. So I don't know, you probably get the same emails I do, Fred, from the president of SUNY Broome. We just received one the other day about criticizing the state for not providing the kind of resources that they need to do the kinds of expansions that would fill some of these gaps, and was hoping that in the next budget we would take that up more seriously. The other thing that I've been thinking about lately, and I've been talking to the folks at Chow about this, is that we're running into another issue, which is we have jobs and we have a skill gap that can be helped by workforce development, but we have a group of people in our community figuring, remember, 1 in 2 children in the city of Binghamton, 1 in 4 in the county are living in poverty. We've got generational poverty issues, we've got pre-skills, a whole set of skills that need to be addressed for folks like that who have been so out of the workforce that skills development alone is not going to reach them. One of the things that I'm interested in doing with this new food sector, instead of handing out food all the time at the food pantries, which is a really noble effort, we want to engage these people who are taking advantage of these services and see if they would like to get into the entire sector that we're trying to build. Growing food, cultivating food, being in the craft beverage industry, so we can get people right at that point of contact. So we're looking at the whole spectrum of things, from the community college, university, hooking people up with the skills that are needed, but also doing a lot of work on the front end with those folks who really have not had a job, who have not come from a generation where there's that skill of going to work. It's going to take all of us together trying to to put these pieces together, but I think the potential is there.
Thank you, Ms. Lupardo. Mr. Nixon.
Thank you, Jim. So I believe the government has a critical role in bridging the gap between existing job opportunities and a populace who, for one reason or another, may not have the skills at present to get those jobs. I also will echo a comment made earlier that job growth is actually a bipartisan issue. Back in 2009, Governor Perdue of North Carolina, a Democratic governor, recognized that as she was dealing with the financial crisis and its fallout, she had to do some major changes in order to help North Carolinians become competitive. Okay? So they created a program called 12 and 6. They identified 12 industries. They targeted them and they said, okay, we're going to take our community colleges and we're going to turn them into vehicles such that people can go to the colleges, and rather than it taking a year or 2 years to get the paper and the skills they needed, it took only 6 months. That's what we need to do in New York. We need to do that upstate. We need to do that in District 123. We need to figure out which industries are there opportunities, and then we need to have our community college, SUNY Broome, function as a bridge to get people in those roles. That's what I believe the government ought to be doing. And elected, that's what I will work to do. Let me touch briefly, good, I have 30 seconds, perfect. So let me talk about Startup New York. So the current version of things is very different. And so from 2013 to now, Startup New York has created 408 jobs. They spent the state spent $53 million on advertising. And if you look at the negative tax impacts, a conservative estimate is $110 million. So that's $163 million divided by 408. That's more than $392,000 per job. That's the current way of doing things. I'm going to do things a different way if I'm elected.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nixon. All right, well.